Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and wait a minute. There's no game on Sunday. The Packers can't lose. Okay, all right, we're good. The blood pressure is down. I could actually relax a little bit. This is great. This is wonderful, and one of my favorite weeks of the season because I get to talk to you, fellow Packers fans, unless that doesn't apply to you and you're a Vikings fan or a Bears fan or you just wrongly clicked on this channel. It was good seeing you. Thanks so much for joining in. But we have a wonderful guest this week on the show. Love talking to Packers fans as it doesn't happen very often in person or via telefonato, and he is a great friend of the show, a great supporter of the show, and that is Ray. Ray, thank you so much for coming on, buddy. It is fantastic to have you.
I appreciate it, Tom. It's good to talk to you.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, I mean, you've been a part of the Grossi Posse now for over a year, right? So you've been there. You modded it up. You're King Ray on the Patreon. You showed lots of love to the show, and I know you've been a longtime Packers fan. And so I was like, hey, you're at every single stream. It's time to bring Ray on the show, and I'm just so happy we could make it work.
I'm glad I could make it work too.
Absolutely. And so I know from our conversations that we have had that you're not, born, bred, living, dying in Wisconsin. And as a fellow out of Wisconsin Packer fan living in New York, I do have to ask that how did you even get involved in the crazy team that is the Green Bay Packers? I mean, because obviously you made the correct decision supporting the greatest team in the world, but I'm curious on how you got to that point.
Yeah, well, born and bred Texan, I'll die a Texan, but when it comes to football, it's all about that green and yellow. And when I was a kid and didn't really know much about football, the teams or anything like that, I just chose them by the colors. And I don't really have like a diehard college team, but, I like Texas A&M, Florida Gators, Notre Dame, just because I still, I guess, choose it. I don't know why, but it's whatever. But when it came to football, the pros, by that point, my dad had stopped caring for football. He was on the fence for a while. He was a Cowboys fan. But when Staubach retired, that killed it. And then when Terry Jones bought the team and met Coach Landry out at the golf course and said, Tom, you're fired, my dad quit. He was like, no, you don't do that to that great man. So, I couldn't be a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
But he did like the Oilers. But I couldn't get over that powder blue uniform. That was disgusting.
They were bad. Yeah, they were pretty horrendous.
Yeah, but I was around 5 or 6 when, no, I think it was around 7, when I started to understand football a little bit more. But I saw the Packers, and I liked the color scheme. But then there was that great man, the myth, the legend, Brett Favre.
Oh, yes.
And I've been a diehard Packers fan ever since.
I love it. And I love the similarities in which my dad's a Cowboys fan, and I was like, nope, we're not going to do that. Obviously under different circumstances, but it's fascinating because I've now for the past 5 years I've talked to so many fans, and you'd be surprised how many were just I was a kid and I liked the way that their uniforms looked, and that yeah. It's just something that's appealing, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you slowly learn about the players, the positions, the game, etc. And well, I'm very glad then that you had an eye for the green and gold because. We don't need another Cowboys fan in the world, and we need all the Packers fans that we could possibly get. So you definitely did choose correctly.
Yeah. Like one of my buddies, I'm surrounded by Cowboys and Texans fans, And I do have one Patriots fan, and I can't really remember the reason why, but he loves them for some reason. But he is one of the few that I know that can actually name people on the team before Tom Brady.
Whoa, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. There was a Patriots team before Tom Brady? I didn't. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. That was wow. So that's some ancient history. Wow. Was that like 50 years ago or something? That's crazy. Because all the Patriots fans I talk to, no, they've never heard of anything before TB.
Yeah, and one of the funny things I like about this, because I follow the history, not of all the teams, but there are a few, mostly that deal with the Packers, because I have the history of the Packers on DVD, and I watch that about at least once a year. And one of the things is Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback before Brady.
Yep.
He got hurt, and Brady took over, and we all know how that ended. He went to Dallas, played. Romo came in, and Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Romo took over. We all know how that ended.
Yep.
And then Romo got Romo'd because he got hurt, and Dak came in, and Romo is now a broadcaster.
Yeah. It's just, it's a circle of life. I mean, like, listen, like, it's, even though obviously, he was still on the team, this is before we decided to go with Rodgers, but like, it was against the Cowboys, right? Like, Favre gets hurt, Rodgers comes in, and impresses, and, the Packers decide to roll with him in the near future, and, we also know how that ends too, so it's crazy, like, how these, like, little things, pop up, because again, like, if Drew Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, is Tom Brady Tom Brady? Does Tom Brady as a 6th round pick even get that shot? It's crazy to look at that.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have.
Yeah. Yeah,
he might have, but it would have depended on how much longer Bledsoe would have played.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how much longer he played after that, but
well, they gave him a whole bunch of money, I think, right? Like, they signed Bledsoe for a number of years and for, like, some pretty big money at the time. So, they were going to roll with him for a bit. I don't know how much longer was on his contract or what have you. But, yeah, I don't even know if they would have done that. Maybe Brady would have impressed in, like, the preseason or something. But, yeah, it's crazy to imagine, like, what if.
Either that or Belichick would have got rid of him, traded him to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, how awesome would that have been?
Well, it depends, because if they traded him to, like, the Bears or the Lions or the Vikings, like, but then again, like, this is that age-old question, like, is Brady without Belichick, and is Belichick without Brady? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just one of those combinations that, they are so dependent on one another. Both are great in their own right, but, them together makes something obviously completely different.
Well, I haven't looked it up, but I talked to a guy. He said if you look at Brady's yards per catch or pass or whatever, and it's astronomical. He's up near the top.
Yeah.
He said, but if you look at his yards before catch or at the catch, not after, he's in the bottom.
Yeah, well, I mean, like,
because Belichick I think we can all agree that he is apparently a defensive genius, and so he knows how to spread out the defense, and he knows how to hit them. And what that is a lot of the receivers, tight ends, and stuff. They're doing crossovers and short routes and stuff, and then because they're spread out, and the team's not full of Jerry Rice players, but they're good enough that with the right circumstances, know how to spread the team out and everything. All you got to do is dump it off to them. They can get 20 more yards because there's no one around them. They already beat the guy that covered them, and then everyone has to come back to them. So I think Brady would have been great, but I don't know if he would have been in the same category as Rodgers if it wasn't for Belichick.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you have those years where they have like Randy Moss on the team, right? And like then those stats like get elevated because there are very few times where they have those like elite, deep threat receivers. They have Brandon Cooks for a little bit who has that speed. Josh Gordon they obviously didn't utilize a whole lot, but then you have guys like Gronk and Edelman and Amendola. And then you got like Chris Hogan and stuff. Like you got these guys who are, slants, quick passes, because that's what Brady really excels as, right? There's the poise in the pocket, but it's getting the ball out super duper quickly. And it's one of those things that he doesn't even, no matter how poorly his offensive line is doing, give him a half, like he'll adjust within the second half. And, I think that's what makes him so dangerous. Then that's why he can throw to absolutely nobody's, because he is relying on the receivers a lot to make the yards after the catch. But yeah, I mean, like that kind of just is just one of the envious things about the Patriots and how their play style is. And
Well, I think that comes down to utilizing his strengths and weaknesses, or understanding them. He has to stay in the pocket, and he has to get it off quickly, because even Skip Bayless, who we all know how much he hates Tom Brady and loves Rodgers, even he admits that Brady has no wheels.
Yeah.
If he gets outside the pocket, he's screwed.
Yeah.
Whereas Rodgers, he can kill you from any part of the field.
Definitely.
So they have to work with him as far as, hey, we got to protect him right here. He can't move a whole lot. And we have to get the ball out quickly. And so, and then there's other quarterbacks that are great for spreading it out and stuff. I think Lamar Jackson is I think I saw somebody talking about him, comparing him to Michael Vick.
Yeah.
And so, Rodgers, I mean, he's got some wheels, but, he's not a running quarterback, at least downfield. He's more of a side-to-side, and I'm just going to get enough yardage to the side to throw it to, Jordy, which I miss.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Or Randall, or, Devontae or somebody down the field. So,
yeah, and I think he ran more too, like, in his earlier days, and I'm just basing that off of like how many times do you see like the belt come out as a celebration? We obviously saw it this year, but like he really only utilizes his legs when he has to, and obviously that's because he's a great quarterback from the pocket, out of the pocket, on the run, what have you, that he doesn't need to use his legs a whole lot. But like there were times you look back in years that are not that far long ago where he was like our number one rusher or our number two rusher, right? Because we had guys like James Starks, and I'm talking after our Super Bowl run, we had James Starks, we had Ty Montgomery, Eddie Lacy when he was struggling, where he was the guy who was rushing the majority of the time because we had no running back. And that's what made him so dangerous, was because he's the guy who can pick you up the first down, and he's the guy who could just run it and do it himself.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of puts him definitely, at least in a kind of like mobility, that puts him over against Brady.
Yeah. Don't forget Ryan Grant there, too.
Yep, of course. They can't. Oh.
We rode him to the Super Bowl a little bit.
Yes, we did. We most certainly did. Yeah. And I know a lot of people just talk about kind of like looking at the different Super Bowls. And I'm curious, so since you've been a fan long enough, you've seen the Packers win both Super Bowls, in the past, 25 years. So like you have Super Bowl 31 against the Patriots, and then you have Super Bowl 45 against the Steelers. So obviously, being younger back then when looking at the 31, for you, is there a Super Bowl that stands out for you, whether it was kind of just like greater impact on you, or kind of just like looking from a fan perspective of like, wow, like I really appreciated this one?
Well, I don't, to be honest, I got the mind of a 9-year-old Alzheimer's patient, so I don't really remember the Super Bowl 31. I definitely watched enough video of it, but I really remember Super Bowl 45 because I was in college, and me and two other people were Packers fans, and the entire room was filled with people rooting for the Steelers. So when we won, 3 of us stood up and started cheering and screaming and hollering, and everyone else kind of just sat there like, I'm going to continue drinking this beer.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah. I mean, that's literally Super Bowl 45. I was in college, and like because so 31, that was a year before I became a fan, because I was like 6 years old and wasn't watching football. And then I became a fan Super Bowl 32, where they lost, and so I didn't get to see that win. And then, and that's the thing too, like when you first become, like we were talking about before, when you're a kid and you like become a quote unquote fan, you're just like, I like those colors, or I like that player, or what have you. I feel like there's not like a true like appreciation for the game. And so I went from, Super Bowl 32 all the way up, 13 years later, and to see like my team, win a Super Bowl and be with them the entire season and follow them the entire season and go all that time. Like that's always one that's going to stand out for me, not just for the terrible Black Eyed Peas halftime show, but for like for me, like that was like, damn, like that was a moment that I was just like, and I feel like just the relief that is there, right? Because like, you're making that run, you get in as the number 6 seed, you go on the road, you beat the Eagles, you beat the Falcons, you beat the Bears, and you get to that point, and it's just like, okay, like we're done. Like we did it. Like we did everything that we possibly could. We made it to the top of the mountain. Like this is amazing.
Oh yeah, that NFC Championship game was amazing.
Oh, Raji dancing, I'll never forget it.
Watching Jay Cutler sit on the sideline like he'd pissed in his Cheerios.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, Jay Cutler, one of the best Packers quarterbacks of all time. Absolutely.
I know. I wonder how he'd feel if he got an invitation to be in the Packers Hall of Fame.
I think it should just be extended to him just out of principle. That, and you know what? Throw it to Matt Hasselbeck too, because how many times you see that clip of, we want the ball and we're going to score. Like that has been embedded into my mind of just like one of the pinnacle Packers historic moments.
The only thing I felt bad about for that was Mike Homer.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
I felt bad for him.
Yeah, I always liked Holmgren.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as someone who has sat through both eras, and I get this question usually once a stream at least. It's Brett Favre or it's Aaron Rodgers. And what I've said before in the past is that like they are obviously very different quarterbacks, right? You have the gunslinger who, is the kind of guy who will make ridiculous throws, who will, bomb it 60 yards, will throw a lot of interceptions, but like he was fun to watch because it looked like, you playing backyard football and just having a great time doing it. The guy was tough as nails, would play through broken thumbs, bruised whatever. Like it was insane. And then you have Rodgers, who is more of the surgeon, in which he makes incredible throws. The mobility is there. Like all around, I think he's a better package. But I'm looking kind of like from your stance, which quarterback, if any, do you prefer? I know it's that's like the pinnacle Packers question.
Yeah, you get that more than once a stream.
Yes, most definitely.
It all depends on what the situation you're talking about is. The more fun to watch, and the more enjoyable, I guess, viewing to me would be Favre. Because you just knew he loved to play.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the money to him. Well, we all know that it wasn't about the money when he unfortunately left.
Yep.
So he was more fun to watch. Now, as far as who I'd want in a really tough situation, I'd have to give the edge to Rodgers because, let's face it, he's not going to get anywhere near Favre's interception record.
No.
So,
unless something goes drastically wrong. Yes.
You mean like a Freaky Friday situation where Cutler changes with Rodgers?
Yes, literally that's it. That's like the only way that I can see it. Yeah, no, like I agree with that. Like, high pressure, what have you. I think you go with Rodgers, but Favre definitely brought something to the game that was different and it was special.
Yes, yeah, I had to follow him afterwards, and because he's the reason I'm a Packers fan, I didn't give up on the Packers, obviously, but I was rooting for him.
Yes,
and
I get
so
it.
when he went to the place that we shall not be named,
Nope.
I call those the dark years. That's the only time I was hoping that they would win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Not because it's them, but because I wanted to see Brett Favre with a second ring.
Yeah.
And some people don't care for that. I met a couple of girls down in Galveston from Wisconsin, and we got to talking about Packers and all, and they asked about that. And I was like, I got to stick with him because he's the reason I am a Packers fan. It hurts that he's gone, and it hurts that he's in purple. But I've just got to stand by him.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you're not a true Packers fan.
Get out of here. Like that's.
And I was like, one, that hurts.
Sure.
And two, it's Brett Favre. He's done more for this team than just about anybody.
Yep.
You gotta go. You have to between him and Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren. You'd have to go back to Lombardi to find someone that impacted the organization as much as those three.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
So I can't. I couldn't turn my back on him. As much as it hurt to see him in purple, I kind of blotted that out and went with the white.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean that makes sense. I mean, like you said, we obviously support the team, the Packers, the green and gold, but like there's players that transcend the jersey, right? Like there's players that you look at and like so for. God forbid, knock on every piece of wood imaginable. If Aaron Rodgers went to another team, like I would obviously be a diehard Packers fan, but I would still support Aaron Rodgers, and that means he goes to any team because like I love watching Aaron Rodgers play. I mean, like it's the same. Listen, I hate the Cowboys. I still love Randall Cobb. When he's catching touchdowns for the Cowboys, I'm cheering for him because I love Randall Cobb and he's a nice guy.
Yeah. You cheer for them, but you also hope that they lose at the same time.
100%. Absolutely. And
that's like me with fantasy. I have Brady as my quarterback because I'm not stupid. I want him to score me a lot of points. But at the end, I would like to see him lose by a field goal.
100%. No, I
agree. It's just, I couldn't see rooting for anybody else other than the Packers, and I hate the Broncos because they're the reason that, and I hate Elway. Oh God, I hate Elway because he's the reason that Favre doesn't have a second ring.
Truth.
And we don't have 5 Super Bowls, so that we can at least tell the delusional Cowboys fans to sit down and shut up, because them and Steelers fans.
Yep.
They think that football started in 1967 with the first Super Bowl.
Yes, they do.
Everything before that was a mistake.
Doesn't count.
And so, but I like Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I wasn't I wasn't a diehard fan like Favre, but I liked him. And when he went to Denver, it was hard, but I was like, I hope he does good. I hope he wins. And he won another Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, now retire.
Now go away.
And he did. So, and yet we're still seeing him on them stupid commercials.
Yep, absolutely. and like so you've been through, you've been through the gauntlet of being a Packers fan, and you've been through the highs, you've been through the lows, and when you look at, so for example, like you have in 2010, the Packers win the Super Bowl, 2011, it's 15-1, and then a lot of it, it just gets, they're obviously good. They go to however many, it was like 8 playoff, appearances in a row, and
yeah, it was 8 in a row, and then we screwed up and missed out on number 9.
Yeah. And so, like, you obviously have, like, and again, a lot of people give McCarthy crap for 2017. And while I think that there's something there, because right? You bring in Brett Hundley, and he's been hyped up by Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy has kept him. He looked good in the preseason. But even just from the play calling perspective, like even Mike McCarthy didn't trust Brett Hundley. And that season was just a complete and total mess. But I don't completely put that on McCarthy. And then you have 2018, which is, one of the first seasons that Aaron Rodgers as a starter, we don't make the playoffs. And obviously he's injured, and there's a litany of other issues. And I'm curious, as we're turning this new page, as we really are on the Packers franchise, you look back, and I think it's very easy to give McCarthy a whole lot of crap, but I think that there are definitely some bright spots there. But I would basically just kind of narrow it down to, okay, he stayed a little bit too long. We got a little bit complacent. Similar with like Dom Capers. There were times where Dom Capers was great. That 2010 defense, great, amazing. 2014, we got back a little bit, but other than that, the defenses really weren't so great. And I'm curious on what your thoughts are on the legacy of Mike McCarthy as a Packers head coach. Because while I think a lot of younger fans will look at it and be like, oh, like, screw Mike McCarthy, he's terrible, I think he did a lot for the organization as well. And while, think he still won us a Super Bowl, he still kept us in playoff contention, while admittedly a lot of that is Aaron Rodgers, sometimes only Aaron Rodgers. I'm curious on your thoughts on McCarthy.
Well, if you don't hold the last 2 years, or, well, I guess technically, a year and a half?
Yeah.
Against him, you would think that he was a great coach. And he is a great coach. But unfortunately, in this league, it's, all about what have you done for me lately.
Yep.
And him, I think our last great backup was Matt Flynn.
Oh, yes. 100%.
But, he had that stretch of games that kept us in the playoffs and did great. And so he decided to leave, and then he couldn't, hold the starting position. But I think that McCarthy was great. He is great. I think he got complacent.
Yeah.
I think he got used to, hey, our defense is terrible.
Yes.
But we're still winning. We don't have a running back. We're still winning. So let's just focus on Rodgers and receivers.
Yeah.
And then he forgot how to use a freaking tight end. Frank Sleeves, or not? Yeah. No, who was that? The quarterback or the tight end?
Jermichael Finley.
Yes. Yeah, I'm still thinking of Favre.
Yeah, he got like PTSD after Finley went down and got injured, because I remember that. I remember him saying, like, we built this offense around Jermichael Finley because it was this up and coming guy who was doing amazing, catching everything, and then he got hurt, and then he was like, never, and then we just never went back to tight ends. We had a revolving door of tight ends or guys that we just never gave the ball to. And you had offenses that were not made to have a lot of contributions from tight ends.
Yeah, I think after that, the tight end was just another tackle.
Yes.
And so, he was, like I said, he did some good things. He should be honored. I think, he has a streak, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, McCarthy way. So, he's earned that. But like I said, I think he got complacent. And then when Rodgers got hurt and Hundley came in, nothing worked.
No.
Because everything was about Rodgers. We didn't have a running game. We don't use tight ends. Our defense sucked. And so I guess he thought that it didn't matter. Hundley would come in, do the same thing, and we'd win.
Yeah.
Instead, he just proved that we have nobody. If Rodgers goes out,
we're screwed.
We don't have anybody.
Yep.
So, I think we were willing to deal with, okay, Rodgers got hurt, that's why. We were 4-1, we beat the Cowboys. We weren't doing good, but then bar happened,
Yep.
and everything went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, and
so, Rodgers came, he comes back, and everyone's like, it's okay, he's back. Last year was a fluke.
Yep.
Why are we losing?
Yeah.
What is happening here? Did Jay Cutler take Rodgers' face and put it on, and he's trying to play? We're not winning.
Yeah.
And I think that, the writing was on the wall that the play calling wasn't, I guess, up to date.
Yeah.
It's like he won. It's like he won with the playbook he had in 2010, and kind of like in Waterboy, Coach Bowden still has the same freaking playbook.
I love the reference. I love it.
And so I think it was time that we needed. Do I agree with firing him after the Cardinals game?
I didn't like that.
I didn't either. He deserved better.
He did, and because at that point, you know what? How many games do you have left in the season? Let the guy finish it out, and it's one of those things that you could be like, I like Goot a lot. I like what he's doing with his team. I like the high of it's kind of. Listen, I know you love Clay Matthews. I know you love Randall Cobb and Jordan, but we got to move on. It's kind of like we got to move on from the past, and I get that. I get that a lot, especially when it comes to the cap. And his signings of Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith and Amos have been phenomenal for this team. Yeah, it's completely changed it. And I look back at that time, and while it sucked, that it was tough. Not being a Packers fan, but it was tough to watch your team struggle and not do well and what have you, just like it is for everybody. But
then you also have compounded on that all the Cowboys and Bears fans and Vikings fans and Lions fans going, see, now you know how it feels, and of course we're all like, it's 1.5 seasons so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when was the last time y'all won anything seriously?
Well, it's one of those things that you get a sense over the years I've interviewed Browns fans, right? Who don't win a game for over a year, a single game.
Oh,
and it's kind of like a humbling experience because listen, as a Packers fan, I'll be the first, we've had it good. We've had it real go from back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks and the run of success that we've had, and during most of my adult life we've been in the playoffs. That does not happen for the vast majority of teams. And I look back at those those bad times, and you know what? If that was what it took, I still don't really agree with letting McCarthy go when we did. You should just let him finish out the season, or fire him before the season or what have you. But I think, looking at what we are able to do afterwards, and it literally was just okay, we're cleaning house. We are just from top to bottom. We're getting rid of the offensive coordinator. Mike Pettin, we're keeping him for another year because he seemed to do well. It really is kind of okay, now we're going to turn the page completely on this franchise, and we're going to be not necessarily we need to win right this second mode because we're still not going to compromise our future, but we're going to build a team around Aaron Rodgers. And this is something that I harped on when the Vikings and the Eagles were in the NFC Championship game. Both of their quarterbacks went down, and they made it to the NFC Championship game and won a Super Bowl. You could never say that about the Packers because, like you said, it was all about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, I agree. I was okay with firing him, but at that time, though.
Yeah, it just seemed.
Let him finish, and then because he did win a Super Bowl, he did get us back to where we were in the playoffs every year, and so he did deserve better than that.
Yeah.
Now, I am happy that they got Matt LaFleur.
Yes.
And, I didn't know much about him, but I was just hoping that he was basically, the water boy, the Fonz.
Yeah.
He's Henry Winkler coming in with a new playbook. He's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And he draws up these new plays that, let's face it, Rodgers was probably looking at some of them going, I haven't seen that since college.
Yeah, like what the hell is this?
Yeah, like what is this? That's the tight end dragging across with a running back in the flats. You can throw to either one. He's like,
I
haven't done this in years.
I have options now? What is this?
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So, and we're going to run the ball more? Yeah. I'm all for that.
Yeah, and you look at like the resurgence of like Aaron Jones, right? Like Aaron Jones like showed those sparks, under McCarthy, but now, like he's in the MVP like, talks right now. And that like he is like the Swiss Army knife, and when our offense is struggling, it's like give the ball to Aaron Jones, whether it's through the air or whether it's on the ground. The guy has been able to produce for us. And I think the thing is that sticks out about LaFleur is that obviously there was a lot of talk coming into this season about how Rodgers is going to run all over LaFleur and how he's not professional and he's a terrible teammate and blah, 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 blah. And you get to it, and like if you ever sit down and watch like his locker room speeches, LaFleur, like there are times where, and I think Bakhtiari said this too, like he's super awkward at times, where like he looks to seem like he stumbles on his words a little bit, or like he might not be like the greatest public speaker or what have you, but the team loves him. Like they love that guy. The energy and the youth that he's brought into that team, like no one cares about like, if he's awkward during that or whatever. Like the way he interacts with the players and even the way that they're changing up practice and the music that they're playing and what have you, it just seems like it's a completely new regime in Green Bay. And from what I've seen so far, for a brand new head coach, when all the other first-year head coaches have been terrible this year, and the fact that we're sitting at 8-2, as a Packers fan, literally, how could you ask for any better?
Oh, yeah. I know another coach that picked up a team that went 1-10-1, and his first year he went 7-5, and that team had I think 11 future Hall of Famers on it.
Yeah,
and the coach's name was Lombardi.
Yep.
So sometimes sometimes you have the ingredients there.
Yeah.
But the previous cook messed it up. Didn't use some more than others, what have you. Then you have the next one come in, he looks at it and goes, that's all wrong. Let's use these a little bit more, these a little less, let's use it this way, do it this way, and just because it's new, you have a resurgence in it, it's exciting that the team responded. Yeah. And so, and then you get one, you get a win, it builds more excitement. You get another one, it builds more. And, does Roger think he probably knows more than Coach LaFleur? I wouldn't doubt it. But I don't think he would be arrogant about it.
No.
I think he would be more of, okay, let's see what he has.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this. And if, Coach LaFleur's smart about it, he's going to be like, look, both sit down. This is my game plan. What do you think?
Exactly.
And Roger's going to look at it and go, okay, I like this. I don't know if that'll work. I like that. This won't work. And, you want to do this? I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And if they both sat down and did that, which I am inclined to think they did with how everything is going and how they're acting.
Yeah.
That, they both sat down and said, look, this is what's going to happen. I want to see this happen. You want to see that happen. And so, it's all about respect.
Yeah. And
if one comes in and tries to run over the other one's going to say, no, screw you.
Yeah. And it's just going to be a terrible experience.
Yeah. So I don't think that happened. And despite what, other people in the news media thinks that everything is, if you believed everything they thought, Roger should have been arrested for assaulting Coach LaFleur on the sidelines. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think one, we were in the dead period, so it was like, oh, let's find things to write about and stuff. And Rodgers has always been kind of like a target for that, whether it's been about his family, whether it's been about whatever. And for me, it's one of those things that, like, unless again you're doing something that's like egregious or like terribly wrong, like I'm not like, I don't need to know about like players' lives, unlike, like, and again, not I'm talking about like charity and stuff like that. It's just like, listen, like their personal life is their personal life, like I don't care. Like that's all them. Like for when I'm watching them, like I'm watching them as the quarterback of my team, the running back of my team, what have you. And like, they do great stuff outside. That's great. That's wonderful. I'd love to hear about it. But for like their personal stuff that they want to keep personal, I don't need to know that. I don't want to know that. I don't want to talk about it because, like, I would expect the same amount of courtesy of just like, hey, like, listen, like, this is my family, this is my love life, this is whatever. Like, I'm good. I'll share what I want to share, but other than that, that's a hard pass. And I think it got overblown to the point where, it became something. But you notice now, Ray, that it's gotten very quiet now in the media when it comes to the relationship between LaFleur and Rodgers, because that lasted all of 4 weeks until that went away.
Well, it got quiet for a little bit there when a small thing called AB happened.
Yes. Yeah, that dominated the news instead.
Yeah, it dominated when he went to Oakland, and then it kind of faltered, and then he went to New England, and it blew up again, and then he left, and it blew up again. And while that was happening, the Packers were winning, so everyone kind of was like, okay, let's not talk about let's not talk about their relationship anymore, because it's not going to work out for us.
Yeah, we're not going to get the clicks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of like quickly, kind of just going through like what you've seen thus far. Obviously, the defense starting off, you're like, oh my God, the week 1 quote of we have a defense now and everything is great. And still Zadarius and Preston Smith are like the best tandem on defense in the league. Zadarius Smith getting double-digit pressures this past Sunday against the Panthers. The offense, obviously like against like the Chargers and things like that, they have struggled. When Devontae wasn't out, they had to find different ways to win. I'm curious of just kind of like getting your quick thoughts on the offense and defense thus far.
Well, I'm happy with both. A little more happy with the offense than I am the defense, mostly because where they've improved a lot, they still need a lot to go with the run defense.
Yes.
They've gotten a lot better on the back end, and so that's good because, they do let some big passes happen, but that's going to be every defense is going to, that's going to happen.
Sure.
But it's not like last year, the year before, that, another quarterback threw a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, how many times did he say Stephon Diggs or Julio Jones just get 150 yards against our secondary?
Yeah, and all on 4 passes.
Yeah, exactly. and
so,
yeah.
I'm happy with that, and I'm real happy that we're utilizing Jones and Jamal Williams, a lot, because then it takes the pressure off of Rodgers and his arm, and it helps us because before everybody's like, oh, they're not going to run the ball.
Yeah.
And if they do, the 3 or 4 guys we got up front will do it.
Exactly.
That's fine. So let's just put everybody in the back, and bad thing for them was Rodgers still got it done.
Mm-hmm.
And that also was kind of bad for us because it allowed us to get to the situation that we were in because, like I said, I think McCarthy got complacent and utilized him, nothing but him. So it allowed us to get into the hole of our defense sucks.
Yeah.
We don't have a run game. We don't have a tight end. We're still winning, though, so it's okay. But now it seems that they're on track to getting their stuff together. We got a run game. The tight end situation, that's a little iffy. They do come up with some good plays, though.
They do.
And the defense is, I want to say outstanding, but I don't want to get too big on that.
Yeah.
I want to say it's much improved.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of the... So, like, if I look at, like, a Dom Capers defense, I'm like, okay, 2010, they're bend, don't break, but they get lots of turnovers. Then you look at, like, 2011 to 2014, they're like, we bend, we sometimes break, but Aaron Rodgers outscores their other offense, so we're okay. Now, I feel like it's a matter of, we bend, but we're just, like, not breaking. Like, we will allow you to get down to the 1-yard line, but we won't let you in. You know what I mean? Like, we did it even against the Chargers. We didn't let them score a touchdown until late in the game. And obviously, the goal line stand against Christian McCaffrey last week, was enormous. And I feel like that's the identity in which, obviously, there are still, holes within that defense. We need to address linebacker, inside linebacker. Blake Martinez, not great in coverage. Is a great tackle machine, had a great game on Sunday. But there's still some questions, with our CBs and things like that. But for the most part, I think, again, if you're a Packers fan, you're never going to get that 100% consistency. You're never going to get blowouts every single week. And I think it's just a matter of, when you play a good team like the Panthers are, they're a good football team. I think if you're able to hold Christian McCaffrey to just over 100 yards and 1 touchdown, like, you'll take that, considering he is lighting up other teams, like, on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah, well, like my dad said, if it's bad when a quarterback scores 42 points and loses.
Yes.
So, he can score all he wants, but if our defense can't stop somebody that has the ball last, well, then it doesn't really matter now, does it?
Exactly. And how many times we see that in overtime, or Rodgers never even got to touch the ball. Just sickening. I have PTSD now from like overtime. Just the Cardinals games and the Seahawks games is just gross on every platform imaginable. And so, based off the team obviously we're heading into the bye this week, and then coming out of the bye, we face the San Francisco 49ers, who lost their first game on Monday night. We actually could, depending on how things go, like, we could take the number 1 seed spot from them, which is obviously, this is huge for playoff implications. I'm curious, because we have, unfortunately, the purple incarnations of Satan right behind us, because, when you need the Cowboys to do one thing right, they can't even do that. They can't even win a freaking game against the Vikings. Because of course not.
They're it's like that joke about a Cowboys fan wanting the Dallas Cowboys to be his pallbearers so they can let him down one last time.
That's it. And so, looking at the team that we have now and kind of what we've been able to do this season, and when we finish a stretch, against some weak teams in the NFC East, like the Giants and the Redskins, and then we have that run of divisional games. Where do you see this season going for the Packers? Obviously, playoffs are in sight. We're knocking on everything to make sure that this doesn't get ruined. But how do you see this team? Like, do you think that this team is a contender for the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, man.
And that's tough, because there's a lot of competition.
Well, not only that, but it's still a first-year head coach.
Yep.
First-year offense. And a second-year defense. Everything normal should tell you no.
Yes.
Like, we should be, at best, a 500 team right now.
Mm-hmm.
According to, like history and stuff like that, and
sure.
Statistics and all. We shouldn't be 8-2 with this. And a big part of that is because of who we have under center. So I'm still, right now I want just to make the playoffs.
Just get to the dance.
Yeah. Whether that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 seed, I don't care.
Yep.
Because before the first game, we were just hoping to be over 500.
Yes.
We didn't want another, 6-9-1 or, something like that. we were just hoping that, hey, let's have a winning season.
Yeah.
And we're doing that right now.
Yes, okay, mission accomplished.
Probably way more than anyone would have thought. But, if I want to go to the Super Bowl. I'd be happy if we did. But right now, I'm just hoping to make the playoffs.
Yeah. No, you and me are both on the same page. Because, again, once you get to the playoffs, all bets are off. It doesn't matter. Because you get hot at the right time, as we showed in 2010 and with both Giants Super Bowls, that's all you need. You just need to get hot at the right time.
Yeah. And, first-year head coach, first-year offense, second-year defense. I have this feeling that if we get to the playoffs, we're either going to the Super Bowl or one of those pieces is going to break.
Yeah.
And if it does, I won't be disappointed because I figured that would happen.
Yeah, and I think we have if we fail in the playoffs, I think that's the best possible failure for everything that you mentioned, right? Everything that is new, all the nuances, and then you come back and you hope to do it again next year. But again, you ended a 2-year playoff drought potentially, and sitting where we are right now, if we win against the 49ers, we have a winning record this year. If we drop every single game after that, we have a winning record. And, while obviously I don't want to do that, and I don't think we will, I think right now, Packer fans need to be, and yes, there's a lot of oh, but this is a problem. Yes, I understand that. But right now we're winning games and we're 8-2. So, let's enjoy this because it's a whole lot better than watching Brett Huntley play, and it's a whole lot better of being out of playoff contention by week 11.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that sucked going into week, getting there late weeks, and usually you were like, so do we sit people or do we want to continue for that first seed?
Yep.
What are we trying to do? And last year it's like, oh, we can't mathematically make the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah.
This sucks.
Yeah, it makes it not fun. You watch those last couple games and you're like, this is not fun. This is just this is not why we watch football. But yeah, no, I agree. Let's get to the playoffs and then we talk.
Let's make sure that we keep this train on track.
Yep.
And we'll worry about that when we get there.
Agreed.
Whether we're top or we're sneaking in, let's wait until we actually get there before we start seriously considering us as Super Bowl contenders, because we should always be with, as long as we have number 12 behind center. There's just too many things new this year that gives me pause.
Sure. From
getting my hopes up.
Yeah. Yeah. You raise those expectations, you're only going to be disappointed. If we go in with zero expectations or very low, we'll be happily surprised. And I think that's what's happening thus far.
Hell, that reminds me of a Cowboys fan I ran into in San Antonio at a truck stop the year after Dak and Zeke came in and the Cowboys went 13-3.
Yep.
Before he walked out, because there were several of us, talking football, because the season was about to start. This guy, before walking out, is like, the Cowboys have the next 5 Super Bowls on lock, guaranteed. We all kind of just stared at him, and because he paid and was walking out, and after he walked out and shut the door, someone's like, "I want the drugs he's on,"
and that.
Then he proceeded to lose.
Oh
that.
God!
And I'm like, I'm going to run into that guy and ask him, so
how's that? How those 5 Super Bowls?
Yeah, is it a 4 now? You going to go with 4 now?
Oh my God, I love it. But
I don't want to be that guy because I can only imagine how he felt.
Oh sure, yeah.
If he was that high on them and they didn't even get there, yeah.
Let's just enjoy what we have right now and take it from there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But Ray, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, talking some Packer football. And I'm very excited for the rest of the season, and I'm excited to also be able a little bit to not have my blood pressure skyrocket this Sunday and watch the Packers take it down to the last second, which I think I might thoroughly enjoy. But where can the lovely people find you on the internets if they want to get more of your face?
Well, I have 2 YouTube channels. One's a miscellaneous. I do a lot of coin and silver and precious metals collecting, and I do shoot a lot of guns. I'm from Texas.
It's you have to.
And so, I have some of those on there. I do game a little bit, although I haven't put any videos up lately. I should. And that's under what everybody sees me when I'm at the streams. TX USMC 69, and then I decided to start a pipe, cigar, alcohol, and history channel called The Smoking Lamp is Lit. And if you were in the military, you'll get that. It's a light on the ship that they would turn, kind of like the non-smoking light in airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
They turned it on in the ship, you could smoke. So
there you go.
I do that and preview my new pipes and tobacco and cigars and which alcohol goes with what tobacco the best.
There you go.
So they're nothing like yours. They're just kind of more or less fun.
That's
kind of hope it. In my miscellaneous one, I do some spicy challenges. I did the Satan's Toe challenge, and that was. I'm waiting for that one video that gets 10 million views because I'm doing something stupid, and I get set.
That's
I
it.
just need one.
That's it. That's just the one. Well. Well, Ray, I wish you absolutely nothing but the luck. We'll be seeing you in the comments. We know we'll be seeing you in the stream. And, thanks for coming on, buddy. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I enjoyed it.
So go check out Ray, a big fan of the show and a great friend of the show. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media see down below. Check out Patcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. But thank you so much for watching. We get to relax this week. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.